"You're different," she whispered after our first kiss in Alien Love Story. The diplomat's arrival. The atmospheric shuttle shuddered as it entered Aloria's dense upper atmosphere, causing Liam Novak to grip his seat more tightly. After 3 months in deep space, the final approach to the alien world seemed both exhilarating and terrifying. Through the viewport, Aloria's surface revealed itself, sprawling metropolises nestled between vast purple forests and shimmering silver lakes. "First time meeting the Alorians?" asked Commander Reed from the adjacent seat, noticing Liam's wide-eyed gaze. "First time off Earth, actually," Liam admitted, straightening the collar of his diplomatic uniform. At 32, he was younger than most cultural attachés, selected for this mission specifically because of his background in anthropology and his adaptive personality. Well, they requested someone new, fresh perspective and all that. "Just remember, they're cautious by nature. Took us 15 years just to get permission to establish this outpost." Reed handed him a data tablet. "Your liaison's information. She'll meet you at the landing platform." Liam scanned the profile. Nyra Valen, 6 Elorian cycles, approximately 29 Earth years, specialist in comparative cultural studies, daughter of Sub-Minister Valen of the Science Directorate. Her image showed a slender figure with striking features. Almond-shaped eyes that seemed to shimmer like opals, delicately pointed ears and skin the color of twilight. A soft, luminous purple that characterized the Elorian people. The shuttle touched down with a gentle thud. As the decontamination sequence completed, the door slid open, releasing a rush of sweet-scented air that reminded Liam of jasmine and something unfamiliar, alien and intriguing. She was waiting precisely where promised, standing apart from the small delegation of officials. Nyra Valen looked even more striking in person, her purple skin contrasting with the simple white scientific uniform she wore. Her dark hair was pulled back from her face, highlighting her high cheekbones and the intricate markings along her temples, status symbols among her people. Liam recalled from his briefings. "Cultural attaché Novak," she said, her voice melodic but formal as she extended her hand in the human gesture they had obviously studied. "I am Nyra Valen, assigned to facilitate your integration and studies." Liam took her hand, noting how warm it felt against his, warmer than human skin, an interesting physiological difference. "Please call me Liam, I'm honored to be here." Something flickered across her expression, surprise perhaps at his informality. "As protocol dictates, I will show you to your quarters at the Earth Embassy, and tomorrow we begin the cultural orientation program." As they walked through the spaceport, Liam observed how other Elorians regarded him, with curiosity, caution, and occasionally what seemed like disdain. Humans were still novelties here, and not entirely welcome ones. "Your people have made remarkable progress," Liam commented, attempting to break the silence as they entered a transport pod. "The architectural harmony with the natural landscape is unlike anything on Earth." Nyra's posture remained rigid, but her voice softened slightly. "The harmony principle is central to our philosophy. All creation must exist in balance. It is why we were hesitant to allow humans here. Your species has a reputation for disrupting balances." "That's why I'm here," Liam responded with a gentle smile. "To learn, not disrupt. To build understanding." The transport glided through the city, offering breathtaking views of structures that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than impose upon it. Crystalline towers caught the light of Aloria's twin suns, sending rainbow reflections dancing across the surfaces of adjacent buildings. Nyra watched him as he absorbed the sights. "You seem genuinely fascinated," she observed, a hint of surprise in her tone. "I am. Everything here feels," he searched for the right word, "connected, in a way Earth cities never achieved." For the first time, Nyra's expression softened. "Perhaps you are not what I expected, Liam Novak." As the transport came to a stop at the modest Earth Embassy building, Liam felt a curious sensation that this assignment might become far more significant than a mere diplomatic posting. Nyra Valen, with her reserved manner and searching eyes, represented an entire world of mysteries he was now privileged to explore. "Until tomorrow, then," he said as they parted at the embassy entrance. Nyra tilted her head slightly, studying him with those iridescent eyes. "Until tomorrow, Liam, rest well on your first night beneath Elorian skies." Hidden Gardens 2 weeks into his stay on Aloria, Liam was beginning to adjust to the planet's longer days and the subtle differences in gravity that made his movements feel slightly buoyant. What he hadn't adjusted to was Naira's formal demeanor, which persisted despite their daily interactions. Today's scheduled activity is a tour of the botanical archives, Naira announced as she met him outside the embassy. She wore a deep blue tunic today, making her purple skin appear more vibrant in the morning light. Botanical archives? That sounds fascinating, Liam replied with genuine enthusiasm. His background in anthropology had taught him that understanding a culture's relationship with its native flora often revealed deeper cultural values. Naira raised an eyebrow, her opalescent eyes studying him. Most diplomats consider it the least interesting part of the orientation program. I'm not most diplomats, Liam said with a smile. Besides, I've heard rumors about Alorian botanical science being centuries ahead of Earth's. Something shifted in her expression, a hint of pride perhaps. The rumors are correct. Follow me. Instead of taking the usual transport, Naira led him down a winding path that descended below the city level. The air grew more humid as they walked, filled with earthy scents that reminded Liam of rainforests on Earth, yet with unfamiliar undertones. This is unexpected, Liam commented as they approached what appeared to be a crystalline dome embedded in the landscape. I thought we'd be visiting a laboratory or a formal garden. That would be the standard tour, Naira replied, placing her palm against a sensor panel. This is something else entirely. The doors slid open, revealing a vast subterranean garden unlike anything Liam had ever seen. Bioluminescent plants pulsed with gentle light in colors ranging from soft azure to deep violet. Floating orbs of water contained aquatic specimens that changed shape and hue as they observed them. The ceiling of the dome reflected the night sky, not Earth's familiar constellations, but Aloria's own celestial map. This is, Liam whispered, words failing him. The Heart Garden, Naira explained, her formal tone softening as she watched his reaction. A living archive of our planet's most sensitive botanical specimens. It's not on the official diplomatic tour. Liam turned to her, surprised. Then why show me? Naira's fingers traced the edge of a broad leaf that seemed to reach toward her touch. Because yesterday when we passed the Junior Science Academy, you stopped to admire the student projects rather than continuing to the ministerial meeting. You asked the young ones questions about their work. She hesitated. No human diplomat has ever done that before. They wandered deeper into the garden, where the paths narrowed and the plants grew more extraordinary, some responding to their proximity with subtle movements or changes in luminescence. Naira gradually revealed more about herself as they walked. Her research into cross-species communication through botanical analogs, her childhood spent in the science enclaves, her private doubts about Alorian isolationism. My father believes humans will ultimately damage Aloria's harmony, she admitted as they reached a small clearing with a pool, reflecting the artificial stars above. He opposed this diplomatic program. And what do you believe? Liam asked, noticing how the lights of the garden brought out flecks of silver in her eyes. I believe in observation before judgment, she replied, then added more softly. Though my observations of you challenge many of our preconceptions. Liam stepped closer to a plant whose fronds curled inward at his approach. It's sensing my body heat, he guessed. No, Naira said, moving beside him. It responds to emotional states, see? She placed her hand near it and the fronds gradually unfurled, reaching toward her with delicate tendrils that glowed at the tips. The brighter the glow, the more harmonious the emotions it detects. Liam tentatively extended his hand alongside hers. At first, the plant's tendrils hesitated, but then slowly reached toward his fingers as well, the glow intensifying where their hands were closest to each other. That's, Naira whispered, looking genuinely surprised, unusual. It's recognizing a harmony between us. Their eyes met, and for the first time Liam saw Naira's carefully maintained composure slip, revealing something vulnerable and curious beneath. A strand of her dark hair had fallen loose, and without thinking he reached to tuck it behind her ear, his fingers brushing against the intricate markings on her temple. She didn't pull away. Instead, she asked in a quiet voice, Why did you really accept this assignment, Liam? Most humans consider Aloria too alien, too difficult. Because I've always believed that different doesn't mean incompatible, he answered honestly. The most interesting connections happen across the greatest differences. Around them, The garden seemed to pulse in response to their words, the bioluminescence intensifying, bathing them in gentle blue and purple light that blended together where they stood. Nira took a deep breath as if making a decision. There is much more I would like to show you. Not as a diplomat, but as a visitor I am, she searched for the right word, intrigued by. As they left the garden, walking closer together than protocol would dictate, Liam realized that something fundamental had shifted. What had begun as a diplomatic assignment was evolving into something much more personal, and potentially much more significant for both their worlds. Cultural divisions, this is unacceptable, Nira. Sub-Minister Valen's voice echoed through the family's private chambers. You were assigned to orient the human diplomatically, not develop personal associations. Nira stood with perfect posture, a lifetime of scientific discipline evident in her controlled expression. Only the slight color deepening along her throat betrayed her emotions, a physiological response she couldn't fully suppress. My interactions with cultural attaché Novak have been entirely appropriate, she responded, using Liam's formal title deliberately. His insights into human cultural integration techniques could prove valuable to our research. Her father's expression hardened, the markings on his temples darkening with displeasure, a status signal that demanded deference. 3 private tours beyond the approved itinerary. Meal conversations extending hours beyond scheduled timeframes. The Central Observation Division reports your biorhythms show significant alterations in his presence. So they were monitoring her. Nira should have expected it, yet the invasion of privacy still stung. Monitoring a science directorate senior researcher requires ministerial approval, she noted coolly, which I obtained the moment I observed your unusual interest in this human. He stepped closer. The Harmony Council is concerned. Humans have destabilized every alliance they've formed in the galactic community. They are chaotic by nature. It is encoded in their biology, their history, their very perception of reality. Perhaps our perceptions need updating, Nira countered. Liam is thoughtful, respectful of our ways. Liam? Her father interrupted. Such informality is precisely my concern. He sighed, his tone softening slightly. Daughter, your work is too important to be compromised by misplaced fascination with an alien species. The boundary regulations exist for a reason. The conversation ended with clear directives, more formal settings, additional chaperones, and a return to the approved diplomatic schedule. Nira left her father's chambers with a hollow feeling in her chest, wondering when scientific objectivity had become so subjective. Across the city, Liam was facing his own diplomatic challenges. The State Department is concerned about your approach. Novak, Ambassador Chen said, reviewing the reports on her screen. Your cultural immersion is unconventional. Liam maintained a professional demeanor despite his frustration. My assignment is to build meaningful connections with the Elorians. That requires going beyond scheduled meetings and formal exchanges. Your assignment, Chen corrected, is to prepare for the trade negotiations without creating complications. Several Earth corporations have billions invested in this mission's success, which will only happen if we truly understand Elorian values, Liam countered. Their society functions on principles of harmony and balance, concepts that often conflict with our economic models. And your frequent meetings with Sub-Minister Valen's daughter? How do those further our diplomatic objectives? Chen's question carried a knowing undertone that made Liam uncomfortable. Nira Valen is my assigned cultural liaison, and a respected scientist in her own right. Our discussions have provided invaluable insights into Elorian thought processes. Chen's expression remained skeptical. Just remember where your loyalties lie, Novak. Earth expects results from this mission, not interspecies entanglements. The warning was clear, as was the subtext. His interactions with Nira were being watched and evaluated not just by Elorian authorities, but by his own government as well. When they next met, in the formal setting of the Science Directorate's public reception hall, both Liam and Nira immediately sensed the change in circumstances. 2 senior Elorian officials remained within earshot at all times, and Nira's demeanor had reverted to the distant formality of their first meeting. I trust your accommodations remain satisfactory, Cultural Attaché Novak, she said when they found a moment of relative privacy near a display of Elorian astronomical achievements. They're fine, but I miss our conversations, he responded quietly. What happened, Nira? Her eyes darted to the officials watching them. "Cultural integration must proceed according to established protocols," she said, loud enough to be overheard, then added in a whisper, "Meet me at the fourth moon viewing platform tonight, after the secondary sunset." Throughout the remainder of the formal reception, they maintained proper diplomatic distance, but Liam caught the subtle glances Naira cast his way, each one communicating an unspoken connection that transcended the artificial barriers being erected between them. That evening, evading the subtle surveillance of both human and Elorian authorities, Liam made his way to the viewing platform, a public space that would be largely deserted during the evening meal cycle. Naira was waiting, her silhouette outlined against the glow of Eloria's fourth moon, which hung low and luminous in the night sky. When she turned to him, her expression carried a mixture of resolve and vulnerability. "My father believes you're dangerous," she said without preamble. "And what do you believe?" Liam asked, echoing their exchange from the Heart Garden. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the subtle patterns in her irises, like constellations in miniature. "I believe that meeting you has changed everything I thought I understood about humans, about difference, about myself." The admission hung between them, profound in its implications. Around them, the city's lights dimmed as Elorians observed the evening reflection period, a time for contemplation and inner harmony. "They're watching us, aren't they?" Liam asked, not needing to specify who they were. Naira nodded. "Both our peoples fear what they don't understand. And this," she gestured between them, "this connection is something neither side anticipated." "Does that frighten you?" Liam asked, resisting the urge to reach for her hand. "It should," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yet when I apply every scientific principle, every cultural analysis, I keep reaching the same conclusion." "Which is?" Naira's gaze held his with newfound determination. "That some discoveries are worth the risk of disrupting the established harmony." She extended her hand, bridging the space between them with the simple human gesture he had taught her. "Perhaps a new harmony is waiting to be defined." As their fingers intertwined, the fourth moon's light seemed to intensify, casting them in a silver glow that blurred the visible differences between human and Elorian, leaving only two individuals finding connection across the stars. The Festival of Lights. Eloria's Festival of Lights occurred once per stellar cycle, when all four moons aligned in what Elorians called the Great Harmony. For 3 nights, the planet's cities dimmed their artificial illumination, allowing the combined moonlight to transform the landscape into a silver-blue dreamscape. Citizens gathered in public spaces to share stories, music, and the traditional illumination ceremony, where personal hopes were symbolically released as floating lanterns into the night sky. This year, the festival carried additional significance, the first official inclusion of Earth diplomats in the sacred celebrations. For Liam, it represented a crucial opportunity for genuine cultural exchange. For Naira, it offered a rare moment when the usual social structures relaxed, allowing for possibilities that the rigid everyday protocols would never permit. "The diplomatic delegation will observe from the northern pavilion," Naira explained as she escorted Liam through streets already filling with excited Elorians. Her professional tone was undermined by the meaningful glances she cast his way whenever they were momentarily unobserved. "The ceremonial proceedings begin at moonrise." Liam noticed how stunning she looked in her festival attire, a flowing garment that shifted between shades of indigo and violet, accentuating the natural purple hue of her skin. Crystal fragments woven into the fabric caught the fading sunlight, creating the impression that stars themselves adorned her form. "You look," he began, before catching himself. 2 senior Elorian officials walked just ahead of them, occasionally glancing back with thinly veiled suspicion. "Official observation suggests that humans find the Festival of Lights comparable to several Earth celebrations," Naira continued smoothly, covering his near-slip into personal territory. Then as they passed beneath a flowering archway, she subtly pressed a small object into his palm. Though the cultural symbolism differs significantly, Liam closed his fingers around what felt like a smooth stone. When the officials were distracted by greeting another dignitary, he quickly examined it, a small crystal etched with a map. A tiny point pulsed with soft light, marking a location far from the official celebrations. The northern pavilion proved to be an exquisite structure of crystalline panels and living botanical elements, offering a perfect view of the central plaza, where thousands of Elorians had gathered. Ambassador Chen and the Earth delegation were already seated, nodding in acknowledgement as Liam joined them. "Cutting it close, Novak," Chen murmured. "Remember, tonight is about respectful observation, not participation. The trade negotiations begin tomorrow, and we can't afford any irregularities." "Of course, Ambassador," Liam replied, his attention divided as he watched Naira take her place with her father and other Elorian officials across the plaza. The ceremony began as the first of the 4 moons crested the horizon, its light causing the entire city to shimmer. A chorus of voices rose in harmonic tones that seemed to vibrate through Liam's very bones, creating an emotional response he couldn't have anticipated. Around the plaza, Elorians began activating small crystalline lanterns, each glowing with a color that supposedly represented the bearer's innermost aspirations. 3 hours into the celebration, as the 3rd moon joined the others in the sky, Liam noted that the officials monitoring him had grown distracted by the ceremonies and the flowing cups of luminescent festival beverages. Catching Naira's eye across the plaza, he gave a nearly imperceptible nod, then casually mentioned to a junior attaché that he needed a moment of fresh air. The map led him through increasingly secluded pathways, away from the main celebrations and into one of Eloria's ancient garden groves, spaces preserved from the planet's pre-urbanization era. Here, the combined moonlight filtered through crystalline trees whose leaves chimed softly with each breeze. Naira was waiting in a small clearing, her festival garments shimmering around her like captured moonlight. Without the pretense of diplomatic formality, the tension between them was palpable. "We don't have much time," she said softly. "They'll notice our absence soon enough." "Then we should make these moments count," Liam replied, crossing the space between them. "What is this place?" "The ancient Harmony Grove. According to our histories, it's where the first Elorians realized that individual differences created stronger collective harmony." Her eyes held his with new intensity. It seemed appropriate. The 4 moons now hung together in the sky, bathing them in silver-blue radiance that made Naira's purple skin glow with an almost ethereal quality. Around them, the crystalline trees resonated with tones that seemed to respond to their emotional states, creating a melody that grew more complex as they moved closer to one another. "I've been researching human customs," Naira said, her voice barely above a whisper, "trying to understand the biological and cultural basis of your emotional expressions." "Any interesting findings?" Liam asked, his heart racing as she stepped closer. "Many," she replied, "but research can only provide theoretical knowledge. Some things must be experienced to be truly understood." Her hand rose to his face, fingers tracing the contours of his features with scientific curiosity that rapidly transformed into something more intimate. The markings along her temples pulsed with a soft light, an involuntary response Liam knew from his own research to intense emotional states. "My father says humans and Elorians can never truly understand each other," she whispered, "that our evolutionary paths are too divergent for genuine connection." "And what does your research suggest?" Liam's voice had grown husky as her fingers continued their gentle exploration. "That harmony exists not despite our differences, but because of them." Her eyes searched his, like complementary tones in music, creating something neither could achieve alone. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken revelations. Then, with deliberate intent, Naira leaned forward and pressed her lips to his, a human gesture she had studied but never experienced. The contact sent a wave of warmth through them both, her skin noticeably warmer than his, creating a fascinating contrast of sensations. When they finally drew apart, Naira's eyes were wide with wonder. "You're different," she whispered, her voice filled with discovery and something deeper. "Different from everything I was taught to expect. Different from what my people believe about humans. Different in ways that change everything." The grove around them seemed to respond to their connection, the crystalline leaves chiming in harmonies that grew increasingly complex and beautiful. For that suspended moment, they existed outside the political tensions, cultural barriers, and watching eyes that had constrained their interactions. "Is this what your research was looking for?" Liam asked softly, his fingers intertwining with hers. "No, she answered with newfound certainty. This is what it was leading me toward without my realizing it. Her free hand gestured to the illuminated grove around them. Look at how the trees are responding. They're calibrated to recognize patterns of harmony. They've never responded this way to an Elorian-human pairing before. The implications hung between them, that perhaps their connection represented something unprecedented, something with potential significance beyond their personal feelings. In the distance, ceremonial drums announced the final phase of the festival, a reminder that their stolen moment couldn't last. Reality would soon reassert itself, with all its complications and consequences. Tomorrow's negotiations, Liam began, reluctance clear in his voice. Your father and Ambassador Chen will continue to see only the barriers between our worlds, Naira finished, a new determination in her expression. But tonight has proven that those barriers may be based on assumptions rather than truths. As they reluctantly prepared to return to their respective delegations, Naira pressed something into Liam's hand, a small crystalline fragment that pulsed with a light matching the markings on her temples. In Elorian tradition, this is a harmony token, a physical representation of a resonant connection, she explained. It will help us find each other no matter what attempts are made to keep us apart. Their second kiss was briefer, but filled with promise, a silent pledge to explore the uncharted territory between their worlds, regardless of the challenges ahead. As they slipped away separately through the moonlit gardens, the crystalline trees continued their melodic resonance, recording in their ancient structures the emergence of a harmony that neither world had anticipated. Bridging worlds, the trade negotiation chamber hummed with tension. On one side sat the Earth delegation, with Ambassador Chen at the center and Liam positioned deliberately at the far end, a clear demotion following his disappearance during the festival. Opposite them, the Elorian Harmony Council presented a unified front, with Sub-Minister Valen's severe expression reflecting the deteriorating diplomatic climate. The proposed extraction quotas are unacceptable, Valen stated coldly. Earth corporations seek to remove resources at rates that would disrupt Eloria's planetary balance. The quotas fall well within sustainable parameters according to our scientific models, Chen countered. Human models that fail to account for Elorian ecosystem interdependencies, another council member interjected. From his position at the table's end, Liam observed the fundamental disconnect unfolding. Neither side was truly hearing the other. They spoke past each other using incompatible frameworks. His hand unconsciously moved to his pocket, feeling the warm pulse of Nira's harmony token against his fingers. Across the chamber, partially hidden behind a pillar among the observer section, Naira watched with equal concern. Her official position had been suspended pending a review of her objectivity, her father's diplomatic way of separating her from Liam without creating a public incident. The negotiations continued their downward spiral. Throughout the morning, by midday recess, both delegations retreated to opposite sides of the chamber, exchanging glares and whispered strategizing. This is heading toward complete failure, a junior Earth diplomat muttered to Liam as they stood by the refreshment table. Chen's talking about invoking emergency protocols to extract our research teams. That would set relations back by decades, Liam replied, alarm evident in his voice. Maybe that's inevitable. Some differences can't be bridged. The phrase echoed in Liam's mind as his eyes found Nira across the room. She gave a subtle nod toward a service corridor, then disappeared through a side door. Making sure no one was watching, Liam followed moments later. They met in a small, architectural alcove designed for private reflection, one of many such spaces, incorporated into Elorian public buildings to allow for moments of recentering. The negotiations are collapsing, Naira said without preamble, her normally composed features tight with worry. My father is preparing to recommend complete severance of diplomatic relations. Chen's considering the same, Liam confirmed. Neither side understands what they're throwing away. Nira's hand found his, the contact sending a warm pulse through the harmony token in his pocket. Because neither side has experienced what we have, the possibility of genuine connection across our differences. A realization crystallized between them, born from their shared frustration and the undeniable truth of their connection. The Heart Garden, Liam said suddenly, The empathic plants that responded to our emotional harmony, could they be used to demonstrate what we've discovered? Naira's eyes widened. A biological verification of cross-species harmony. It would be unprecedented, but scientifically irrefutable. Her scientific mind quickly assessed the possibilities. We'd need to transport mature specimens to the negotiation chamber, create the right conditions. Can it be done before the negotiations completely collapse? Determination replaced uncertainty in her expression. Not alone. But I know which researchers would help us. Those who value truth over political positioning. What followed was a race against diplomatic disintegration. While the delegations continued their increasingly hostile exchanges, Naira mobilized a small team of trusted scientists to prepare the demonstration. Liam, using his anthropological training, documented the potential cultural and economic benefits of genuine harmony between their species, benefits that transcended the narrow focus of resource extraction. By the time the afternoon session was set to resume, they were ready. As delegates filed back into the chamber, they found the central area transformed. The grand table had been replaced by a circular arrangement surrounding a collection of softly glowing botanical specimens. The empathic plants from the heart garden, carefully transported and installed by Naira's scientific allies. What is the meaning of this disruption? Sub-Minister Valen demanded as he entered. Ambassador Chen looked equally displeased. Novak, if you're responsible. Distinguished representatives of both worlds, Liam began, stepping into the center beside Naira, ignoring the outrage from both their superiors. Before you terminate relations between our planets, we ask for one final demonstration, not of our differences, but of a possibility neither side has fully explored. These specimens, Naira continued, her scientific authority evident despite her father's glare, are empathically responsive flora from our heart garden. They react to emotional and psychobiological harmonies by changing their luminescence patterns. They have been used for centuries to verify compatible Elorian pairings for scientific and familial alliances. Murmurs rippled through both delegations as Naira continued her explanation. These plants are incapable of diplomatic bias or cultural preference. They respond only to genuine biological and emotional resonance between individuals. We propose a simple demonstration, Liam added. Representatives from both delegations approached the specimens together. Their reactions will provide objective data about our capacity for harmony. Ambassador Chen scoffed. This is absurd. We're here to negotiate resource agreements, not participate in alien botanical experiments. Are you afraid of what the results might show? Naira challenged, addressing both leaders. That your assumptions about incompatibility might be proven wrong by objective scientific measurement? The provocative question created exactly the response they'd hoped for. Neither leader could refuse the challenge without appearing afraid of potential results. I will participate in this demonstration, Sub-Minister Valen declared, his authoritative markings darkening with intensity, to prove once and for all that humans and Elorians lack fundamental harmony. Ambassador Chen, not to be outdone, stepped forward as well. Fine. Let's get this over with so we can return to actual negotiations. What followed was remarkable. As pairs of humans and Elorians reluctantly approached the plants together, the specimens began to respond. Weakly at first, with sporadic pulses of light, but with increasing intensity as more pairs interacted. The plant's luminescence created patterns of light and color that even the most skeptical observers couldn't dismiss. Specimens are registering compatibility potentials across multiple dimensions, one of Naira's scientific colleagues announced, reading data from a monitoring device, neural resonance, emotional concordance, even biorhythmic synchronization. Impossible, Valen muttered, though the evidence glowed undeniably before him. When Liam and Naira finally stepped forward together, the plant's response was dramatic, bursting into brilliant patterns of light that caused gasps from both delegations. The harmony token in Liam's pocket pulsed in synchronization with the plants and with the markings on Naira's temples, creating a visible circuit of connection. This is what we've been trying to tell you, Liam said, addressing the stunned delegates. Our differences don't make harmony impossible. They make it richer, more complex, and potentially more beneficial to both our worlds. The harmony principle itself, Naira added, standing tall despite her father's disapproving gaze, teaches that true balance comes not from sameness, but from complementary differences working in concert. In the charged silence that followed, Ambassador Chen was the first to speak. Perhaps we've been approaching these negotiations from the wrong perspective. Indeed, Sub-Minister Valen acknowledged reluctantly, his scientific training unable to deny the evidence before him. It appears our understanding of cross-species compatibility requires reassessment. The negotiations resumed with a fundamentally altered tone. Resource discussions were now framed in terms of mutual benefit and long-term planetary health rather than maximum extraction. Cultural exchange programs were proposed to foster deeper understanding between their peoples. Most significantly, a new joint scientific initiative was established to explore the biological basis of human-Elorian compatibility, with Nira appointed as its Elorian director and Liam as the human liaison. 3 months later, as Eloria's twin sun set beyond the crystalline spires of the capital city, Liam and Nira stood on the balcony of the newly established Harmony Research Center. Below them, mixed groups of humans and Elorians moved through the gardens, engaged in conversations that would have been unimaginable before their demonstration. "Your father actually smiled at me today," Liam noted with mild amazement. "I think he's finally accepting that I'm not going to destabilize Elorian society." "He's a scientist at heart," Nira replied, leaning against him as they watched the first moon rise. When presented with sufficient evidence, even the most entrenched views can evolve. The Harmony token, now fashioned into a pendant worn by Liam, pulsed warmly against his chest in rhythm with the markings along Nira's temples, their personal reminder of the connection that had ultimately bridged two worlds. Ambassador Chen mentioned that 3 more Earth diplomatic families have requested permanent posting to Eloria, Liam said, and the cultural exchange program has twice as many applicants as available positions. Nira turned to face him, her purple skin luminous in the gathering twilight. "It seems we've started something much bigger than ourselves. That's what happens when you whisper you're different to someone under 4 moons, Liam teased gently, drawing her closer. "The difference was always there," she replied thoughtfully. "What changed was our willingness to see it not as a barrier, but as a beginning." As their lips met in a kiss that still felt like a wonderful scientific discovery, the first stars appeared in the Elorian sky, distant worlds with their own differences, their own potential harmonies waiting to be discovered. Around them, the garden's empathic plants glowed with increasing brilliance, their light reaching upward like a beacon announcing that across the vast distances between stars, difference and harmony could not only coexist but flourish together. In the growing starlight, human and Elorian stood together, not as representatives of separate worlds, but as pioneers of a new understanding that would reshape the future of both their species. Their personal journey had become a bridge between worlds, proving that sometimes the greatest discoveries happen not in laboratories or negotiation chambers, but in the space between 2 hearts brave enough to whisper, "You're different," and see it as the beginning of something extraordinary.